Good morning. Wow, it's Father's Day. And if you're here, it means you got one, right? We all got one. Maybe he was part of your life, and maybe he wasn't. And maybe he's still around to hold his hand and say, I love you. And maybe he's not. And maybe he was the best dad, and you gave him that mug that told him so, world's greatest father. And maybe he wasn't that, and you have this lifetime to get to resolve what that means to you. But today is a day to reflect on our fathers and the impact that they have in our lives. And so to all the fathers who are here with us today, the fathers and the stepfathers and the fathers-in-law and the father figures, we celebrate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the spiritual work that you bring into your families and into our communities. So let's take a moment and celebrate our fathers. So, I gotta get my little clicky thing. Here's my clicky thing. That's my dad. That's my dad. When I was a kid, about 10 years old, I had a little sister. She was 4 years younger. She was 6. And there was a day where my dad was telling us that sandwiches were named after the Earl of Sandwich, some guy that lived, in this magical kingdom in England. And I, being the elder protective sister, wanting to protect my gullible little sister, made a point to let my sister know, Dad doesn't always tell the truth. I wanted her to know that. My dad is a Texan, and he's a fly fisherman. So you got to take anything he says with a little grain of salt, He tends to exaggerate just a little bit. And I wanted my sister to know that this is a life lesson for my sister. And my dad, he loved to egg me on. He loved to mess with me. And he'd be like, oh yeah? Oh yeah, you think you're right? You think I'm wrong? You think I'm right? You think I'm wrong? He's like, well, look it up. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. And of course, 10-year-old me was like, okay, I will. And I go marching over to where we have our set of encyclopedias. And for those that don't know, it's like Wikipedia, but it's books. They're alphabetized. So I pulled out, the S, and I looked up sandwich. And there in the S's is a picture of the Earl of Sandwich. The first man to ever put a slab of meat in between two pieces of bread. He is from a hamlet called Sandwich, which he then immortalized with his creation. My father is now 86 years old, and he still reminds me of the time that he was right about the Earl of Sandwich. He's very proud of that. So we have these early relationships with our dads, our stepdads, our father figures, and they shape us. They become part of who we are. They get into our subconscious mind and gets coded into our lives. So think about, who are the father figures in your life? Did they teach you to demonstrate love and compassion, maybe? What did you learn from them? Or maybe they taught you something different. Maybe they taught you to be invisible and to keep quiet. What did you learn? Did you learn to be strong? Did you learn to help people in need? Or did you learn some subconscious habits, some addictions? Were there things that you picked up? What did you learn from the father figures in your life? Did you learn to be a good partner? Or did you not? Those role models that we have as children, they get embedded into our subconscious. So we are creators, yes? Would you agree? We are creators. We are made in the image and likeness of the, capital C, Creator. And as spiritual beings, we have that ability. We call it in Unity, it's our third principle. We have the ability to create through the way that we direct our thought. And every moment is a new opportunity to begin anew. In the beginning, God created, and this moment is a new beginning. Every moment is a possible new beginning. So today we're looking at something called the creative cycle. And this is about how do we create? How do we use our creative abilities? So from this realm of infinite possibilities, from this place where anything is possible, with God, anything is possible, we have the ability through our thought to direct this infinite substance and shape it. We shape it through the things that we observe, the things that we imagine. We shape it through the stories that we tell. We shape it through the things that we make those stories mean. All of that is happening in the realm of thought. And all of that is creative power. From those thoughts will activate in us emotion, feelings. And feelings have vibration. Feelings have energy. How many of you know that you carry emotional energy? Yes? And how many of you know that emotional energy is creative energy? Whether it's creating something good or creating something not so good, it is creative energy. So when you put your thoughts and feelings together, what you create is it converges into who we are being. Who we are being in the moment is a convergence of our thoughts and our feelings. Does that make sense? So turn to someone next to you and say, you're a creator, you're a creator, you're a creator, you're a creator. We are creators. Now, what tends to happen is based on our state of being, we then move into doing, right? So who we are being then expresses through what we are doing. So then we move into this realm of action, and that action will then begin to sculpt and shape the reality that we are in. So that's, we have our being, and then we have our doing, and then we have our having. That creates reality. So that's the cycle, and it's kind of like if you think of any given moment is a layering of these things. So every moment is a layering of our thoughts and our feelings and our actions, our way of being and how we choose to express that. That becomes our reality, and we create our reality in every moment. The challenge is most of us learned how to do that. We learned how to stack those thoughts and feelings and actions from our early role models. And the neuroscience shows us that by the time we're 5 years old, we have built a neural model that helps us adapt and thrive to the best of our ability in the environment to which we are born, which is pretty spectacular, isn't it? We are each uniquely wired for the environment in which we are born so that we can survive, which is great until your environment changes, or you want to create something new. You want to create a different type of environment, a different kind of reality. And in order to do that, we have to move out of autopilot and do something consciously different. So this is, we have our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, our reality, and then how that works in our brain. This is my husband, Sean. Happy Father's Day to my husband, Sean. Isn't he cute? I'm watching at home. So one thing to know about my husband, Sean, he's a wonderful guy. Something's kind of weird about him is he's left-handed, he's a lefty, and he holds his pen kind of like this when he writes. I don't know how he does it. I tell him he looks like E.T. when he writes. He kind of does this weird thing with his hand. And he's like, well, when I was a kid, he said when he was like in kindergarten, first grade, learning how to write, he was left-handed, and his teacher didn't want him to be left-handed. And so his teacher was trying to get him to be right-handed, and anytime he'd do this, she would correct him. And so he had this traumatic experience with his teacher when he was in first grade learning how to write. And, I tell him now, I say, I'm really sorry you went through that, because that is a horrible thing to go through. But you're 50-something years old now. There comes a point where it's no longer the teacher's fault. Do you know what I'm saying? There comes a point where it's like, okay, if you wanted to change that, by now you could change it. And I think we go through that. There are things that happen, and it's easy to say, well, okay, I am this way because that. And maybe we were that way because of that, but we have the opportunity in any moment to change. And we can do that, but it takes consciousness. It's not easy, right? You can't just it's not like one day I want to write differently and so I write differently. You've got that coded. It's in our body, it's in our muscle memory. So it takes some intentionality to do something different. Paul says in the scriptures, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We have that gift in any moment to renew our mind, to think something totally different. So you're not condemned to repeat the patterns of your fathers or stepfathers or mothers or we're not condemned to that. We have this ability to create and recreate and co-create our reality. So that's the invitation. Last week, if you were here, we talked about polarity thinking. We talked about it even if you weren't here. We have it on YouTube. You can see it if you missed it. We talked about polarity thinking and how to rise above that. So, and I have to tell you, this week has been really beautiful because I've heard so many people reference it in the things that are happening here at the church. We've got lots of teams that are meeting, we've got lots of projects happening, and I've heard people like using this idea of, okay, here's one perspective, here's another perspective, and what could we create from that together? So that's been really beautiful to see. This week I want to introduce a new tool that is a communication tool that is helpful for stepping out of those unconscious patterns and stepping into new possibilities, not as a solo adventurer on your spiritual journey, but as a traveler in community. There is no faster way to create change than to immerse yourself in a community. Have you noticed that? Especially a community like this one, where there's so much changing right now. So there's some really amazing things happening, and I have to tell you, I've been here, I think this is my 4th talk, so I've been here a month, and I've been stirring the pot. I've been stirring the pot, haven't I? I have been stirring the pot, and I have to tell you, I've gotten a little splattered from stirring the pot, but you know what that means? Something's cooking. That means something's cooking. So if you're feeling a little splattered, know we're stirring the pot, and something's cooking, and it's big, and you can feel it. And because it's change, it's going to activate, the thoughts that you have that are comfortable, the patterns that you're used to are getting shifted around. And that's going to generate feelings of, okay, whatever your unconscious program is for what change happens, and do I go into survival mode, all of that's getting triggered right now. That's great, we're stirring the pot. And now we have a chance to get to work through that together. That's the opportunity. So I want to share with you today a tool to help you do that. And I can relate. I have to tell you, I'm a Southern girl. I grew up, born in Arlington, Texas. I grew up here. And for me, what that means is, Southern girls are very nice, very sweet. We kind of go with the flow. That's what I learned growing up. And anytime there was, I avoided conflict. I did not say no to anything, and that had me live in a very tiny box because I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to set boundaries. I was supposed to be nice. And what happened was when I got married, and I'm in this relationship, and I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to say stop. I didn't know how to say that hurts. And so what happens is all those feelings go underground and start popping up in weird, dysfunctional ways. It's like throwing something sour into the soup, right? Until I could learn how to communicate. And what happened to this poor guy, you know what's going to happen? It builds up, and it builds up, and it builds up, and it builds up. My first Unity minister used to say, when you bury your emotions, you bury them alive. They're still very much alive because I didn't know how to process through them. And eventually it just exploded, poor guy. And I was pretty convinced at the time that it was his fault. Right? I didn't know. So we do the best we can, and then we learn, and we practice. And the wonderful thing about being in community like this is it is a safe place to practice. It is. That's what we're here to create, is a safe place to practice these tools so that we can take them into our relationships, into our workforce, take them into our world to create a more peaceful world. That's the intent. That's what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to share with you a tool. Are you ready for that? Does that sound like it would be useful? Yes? Okay, good. So in Matthew, let me see, go here to Matthew 18, verse 18. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Which means whatever you've got snarled up inside of you about those people out there is snarling up your spiritual energy. And whatever you let go of, whatever you release, is loosening that spiritual energy. It's allowing you to be more in a flow. It's allowing you to experience greater and greater well-being. And that's how we step into, what is the kingdom of heaven? How do we reconcile those emotions and move through them? Because then we get to grow. So there's a story in Matthew around this time in the chapter where it talks about the 100 sheep. You know about the 100 sheep? And Jesus says, if you have 100 sheep and one goes astray, leave the 99 on the hill and go in search of the one that went away. So I brought a little experiment here. I'm sitting here thinking, how am I going to do this? I'm going to come down here, and I think I'm going to come over in this section over here for just a second. I want to show you this little experiment. So I need maybe this little, how do we do this little section? How about, can we go over here? So if you all would stand and just hold hands. I need a circle that can hold hands. Would you be willing to just stand? There we go. Hold hands in a little circle so everybody's connecting. Can you do it? Oh, thank you so much. Okay. So Jenna here, I'm gonna break this here. So Jenna's gonna hold on to my little stick here. You're gonna hold on to this side. And if you would connect your circle by holding on to that side. Do you see what happens when we're connected? There is an energy that flows through us. And anytime one person is disconnected from that energy, we lose it. We all lose it. One more time. That's so fun. Thank you all so much for playing. Give them a round of applause. Thank you for doing that. There is an energy that flows through community. And when we are aligned, when we are focused on the same mission, when we are of one heart, there's this amazing thing that happens. It lights up the world. It's pretty exciting. But when one person is out of that alignment, even when the others are connected, it shifts the energy. So when one person is grumbly or discontent or judgy or, whatever that thing is, it affects all of us. It affects the flow of our energy. So that's why it's so important to find that lost sheep. When we find our thoughts becoming astray from each other, to have those conscious conversations to bring that sheep back into the flock. What do we need to say? What's the conversation? What's that conscious conversation that we need to say to bring us all back together? So I want to own up, if we look at this model, if we got our thoughts and our feelings and our actions that lead to the reality. So, I don't know, it was last week before, we had this, I'm building teams. So one of the teams here at the church, there was something that happened on Sunday, and I was, looking at my observed reality. That's where it begins. So here's the first tool. If you're a note taker, write this down. What is the observed reality? Because what we're doing is we're taking a moment, and instead of going into that default pattern, we're hitting pause on that movie, and we're dissecting it into its parts so that we can move forward consciously. So this situation happens. Here's my reality, and there's this trigger. And so I hit pause. Instead of just going into the default, we hit pause on that movie, and I say, okay, what is this moment? It's a combination of this reality is my thoughts, my feelings, my observations, my actions. What is this moment? So I start with what is the observed reality that has activated me? And so I'm like, okay, this is what I'm seeing happen. And then there's what I think about that. And what I think about that is based on, here's what I know, and then my imagination is going to fill in the gaps based on what seems realistic, right? So this is probably what happened, and so I tell the story of here's what happened, and then I have an emotional response to the story I'm telling and what I'm making that story mean, right? So here's what I observed happen. This is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that this happened. And this is how I feel when I think that this happens and what it means. And instead of moving into action, what we do instead is we say, well, what do I want? What is the desired outcome? I want us to be a really amazing team. So let me take that into conversation. This is what I'm seeing. Help me understand. I'm wanting us to be a really amazing team. So let's create that. What are the actions that we can take together that will lead us there if that's where everyone wants to go? Which, usually it is. And so we had this amazing conversation, help me understand. And you know what happened? You're not going to believe this, but my imagination actually created something that wasn't accurate. There was a factor in the mix that I did not know about. And so I filled it in with what seemed like, in my mind, it seemed like this is what happened. And I'm so glad, isn't it great, to come together and say, okay, let's talk about what just happened. And now I've got greater understanding. And that greater understanding changes the story that I tell. And when I change the story that I tell, it changes the way I feel. And when it changes the way I feel, it changes my being and how I can show up in that situation. And then together, we can create that desired reality that we all share. You see how that works? So it's breaking it down. Anytime you're feeling triggered, what's the observed reality? So and I want to do a shout out here. I'm looking over to Miss Debbie over here. Debbie Thomas on our board. Give her a round of applause. She's amazing. Woohoo! Love you, Debbie. We had this meeting this week. And so I want to share this because Debbie is such a great role model of being able to be in a conversation that can be, these conversations, they can be uncomfortable, right? They can be uncomfortable. So Debbie comes in, and I'm like, Debbie, what are you going to talk about? And she pulls out her notebook. And there's bullet points. I can see the bullet points on her notebook. Like, oh, she got a list. She got a whole list of things she needs to talk to me about. And she says, people have been approaching me with, I don't even know how you said it, concerns, people have been approaching me. That's the observed reality. People have come to me and talked to me about some of the changes that are happening. That's the observed reality. Now, the thinking world might say they're upset or they're happy or, I think that they're this or whatever. That's our thoughts. The observed reality, people come to Debbie and say, Debbie, things are changing. Here's my feedback. So that's what she said. People have come to me and shared, here's my list of things that people have said. And then she said, we didn't really go into like how you were feeling. We shared a little bit about how she thought people were feeling in the community. And then for her, like, what is the desired reality? This is what I loved. She said, what I'm hoping to accomplish out of this meeting is I want to understand why the changes are what they are so that I can communicate back to these people, right? So it's like, I want to support you. I see where you're going, but I don't understand all the changes. So when people ask me about the changes, I don't know what to say. So can we have a conversation? And it led to this really lovely conversation. So we just went through each one. Here's the line item. And it's like, here's why it is what it is. One of them, I don't know if this might have triggered somebody here, but you might have noticed there's music outside when you come into the building. And some people are like, hey, there's music outside when you come in the building. That's my observed reality. And I think it's great. I think it's exciting. And I feel really happy when I walk into the room. And I hope we keep doing that, right? Observed reality, thoughts, feelings, desires. I love it when people come and talk to me like that. But not everybody feels that way, right? Not everybody feels that way. Some people are like, there's music outside. Observed reality. And I don't like it. That's a thought. And I feel like whatever that feeling is, and I can't project what that would be, but like what is the feeling that comes with that thought? And then what is the desired outcome? So we had this really great conversation where I could say, all right, well, this is the reason for the music. We want to create an inclusive community, yes? So having music that's familiar for new people is a way to make them feel comfortable and welcome. I also shared, I went to the youth program. I've been wanting to get the younger generation to feel more ownership of the church. So giving them the keys to the playlist was a way of engaging a younger generation. When you come, would you like to hear your music? What would it take for you to bring your friends and have this be a cool place to come? So there's like, here's all the reasons, but not from a place of defensiveness, from a place of co-creation. And then Debbie gets to share, well, these are some of the ideas that are coming up. And together, we're like, oh, well, what is this third way? What can we create together? And so I'm like, well, what if we just opened up the playlist to everybody? And I give you all the same parameters that I gave to the YOU kids. We're looking for music that's upbeat and positive. We're looking for music that is respectful with no profanity. We're looking for music that teaches unity principles. And we're looking for music that's familiar to someone who has never been to unity before, because we want everyone to feel comfortable when they walk in the door. So if you have an idea, we put on our community board this week a chance to share your song requests. And so we'll look at that and integrate it. Cool solution that we co-created together. So that's the opportunity, is what could be like this conversation becomes something that is expansive. And it's not going to be maybe exactly what I had originally envisioned, and it may not be exactly what people have said that they wanted, but it'll be something that we create together. And because of that, this lost sheep, Jesus says, when you find the lost sheep, you will celebrate that sheep more than any of the others because you grew through it, right? When there's a relationship that's out of whack and then you bring it back together, isn't that what makes our relationship so special? Is those people that you know you can talk through things with? You know that if you have that difficult conversation at the end, you still love each other, you still respect each other, and you create something new and exciting together. So that's the opportunity. Matthew says, if two of you agree on earth about anything they ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am. When we gather together to co-create in the name of love, in the name of service, in the name of this community, in the name of being inclusive, in the name of growing and inviting others into this spiritual home, when we gather in that name, in that Christ consciousness, we are activating something within us that is greater than the sum of our parts. Can you feel that? Can you feel that? So that's what's happening here. Today is the solstice. It is a day of light. This is the longest day of the year. It's a day where we celebrate the abundance of light in this community. It's powerful. So affirm with me, repeat after me, I choose the path of light and love. Together, I choose the path of light and love, and so it is. And so let's take that into this moment of meditation. I invite you to get comfortable. Close your eyes if it helps you to relax. Go within. Paul says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is your moment. This is your creative space. In the beginning, God created. This is our beginning. This is a new moment, free from old programming. This is the moment of conscious choice. How do we want to see the world? How do we want to see each other? What is that story that we're telling? Is it an empowering story? What are we making it mean about us? These things that we see in the world, these things that we see around us. Is it the truth? Or is it just a story that we've been taught to tell ourselves over and over and over again? So much so that it feels true, so much so that we experience it because our belief is so powerful. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. If we want to grow, if we want to expand, if we want to evolve, if we want to transform, the energy, the power that makes that possible is not out there. The energy that makes that possible is the Spirit of God that lives within you. And it is that Spirit of God that lives within each of us. And when we start here first, seek ye first the kingdom of God, then all things are given to us. And when we can co-create from that space, for all of us, we go to prayer first, we go to meditation first, we go first into this void because in the beginning, God created. And in this new beginning, let us create a new path, a new way that is rooted and grounded in love and compassion. Take a deep breath in. And I invite you to sit in that space of not knowing. in that space where there is no you and there is no me and there is no out there, go into that space that is consciousness, pure consciousness. No ego, no self, no thing, no conflicts, just possibilities. Imagine, we don't know. But there is this one power, one presence. And a new path from this energy can emerge. So let's move into a moment of silence, sitting not in the solution, but in the openness to not knowing, and letting Spirit surprise and delight us with our creation. I invite you to take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, feel the energy that is your heart, your spirit. And in that next breath, open your awareness to the beautiful light beings that are surrounding you in this room, their hearts, their imaginations, their desires. We feel that energy synchronizing and elevating because of this community. We allow ourselves to be lifted into something that is greater than what any of us can do on our own. And from that space of love and compassion and service, let us direct our energies to our beautiful prayer box and let it represent the prayers and the hopes and the dreams of every member of this community. We send our love and our knowing, we uplift these prayers, knowing that the strength of God is our strength, knowing that the love of God is our love. We send our love to each other, blessing each other, and so it is.